In this tutorial, I'm going to show you guys how to use associative arrays in PHP. An associative array is a special type of array where not only we can store data values, but we can actually store what are called key value pairs. So unlike a normal array where I could just store like numbers or text or a combination of both, in an associative array, I could store a series of key value pairs which would allow me to access that information differently. So I'm gonna go ahead and show you guys how these work. The easiest way to wrap your mind around it is just to see an example. So let's create an example, and then we're actually gonna create a little web application where we can use these associative arrays. So down here, I'm gonna show you guys how we can use these. Let's say that I was writing a website for a school. And for this website, I wanted to be able to keep track of the different students in my class and the grades that they got on a particular test. Well, this is actually a scenario where we could use something called an associative array. So in other words, inside of this array, I'm going to be storing two pieces of information. I'm going to be storing the student's name, and I'm going to be storing the grade that they got on the test. And those two data values are sort of like linked together. And in an associative array, we could actually represent data like that. So I'm going to create this just like I'd create a normal array. I'm going to make a $sign, and why don't we just call this like grades, and I'm going to set this equal to array with an open and closed parentheses. So far this is exactly like a normal array. The difference is though, now when I put elements inside of this array, instead of just storing single pieces of information, I'm going to store key value pairs. So the first thing I want to do is store the student's name. So let's say the student's name is Jim, and then I want to say equal sign, greater than sign, and I'm going to store the grade that Jim got on the test. So let's say that Jim got an A+ on the test. Let's say Jim's really smart. So unlike a normal element in an array, I'm storing a key, which is the student's name, and then I'm storing a value. In other words, I'm mapping a value to a specific student's name. Over here, I can do the same thing for another student. So let's say we have another student, Pam, and let's say that Pam got a B- on the test. All right, so now I'm storing the student, and I'm also storing the grade that they got on the test. Why don't we do one more? Let's make another student, and you'll notice I'm separating these different students with this comma, just like I would normal array elements. So over here, we're just gonna say Oscar, and let's say that Oscar got a C+ on the test. All right, so we have our three students, Jim, who got an A+, Pam, who got a B-, and Oscar, who got a C+. So you'll notice I'm storing a key, and then I'm mapping it to a particular value. I'm storing the student's name, and I'm mapping that name to a particular grade. And what's cool about these associative arrays is when I want to access one of these elements, I could just come down here and I could say grades, and I'm going to make an open and closed square bracket. And in here, I can just type in the name of the student. So I could say grades Jim. And this is actually going to tell me what grade Jim got on the test. So when I refresh the page over here, and actually, whoops, I need to echo this out. So I'm going to say echo. This is going to tell me what grade Jim got. So we can see over here, Jim got an A+. I could do the same thing for Oscar. So I'm just going to see what Oscar got. Looks like Oscar got a C+. So unlike a normal array where we access elements using their index position, in an associative array, we access elements using what's called a key. And the key is basically this value over here. So we would say that Jim is a key, Pam is a key, and Oscar is a key. And then over here, we have the values. So we have a key, and it's mapped to a particular value. And when I want to access that value inside the associative array, I just pass in the key. And one thing you do want to keep in mind is that you want all of the keys inside of your associative array to be unique. So if I came over here and I made this student also named Jim, well then when I tried to access Jim, like it's unclear which one we're referring to. So you always want to make sure that these are unique, right? So I have different names for all of these keys. The values can be the same, however. So I could come over here and have Pam also get an A+, just like Jim, and that's going to be no problem. But you always want to make sure that those keys are unique. And just like with a normal array, I could also come over here and modify this. So I could say like grades Jim, and I could give this a value. So I could say grades Jim is equal to F. So let's say now Jim fails the test. And over here, when we print this out, Jim's is going to have a new value of F. So you can essentially do everything you would do with a normal array. You could also get how many elements are inside of it. So I could say count, and over here, this will tell us how many key mappings we have. So we have 3. And like I said, it's just like any normal array that we would have in our program. I want to show you guys how we could use this to build a little website. So what I'm going to do is I actually have a form set up over here, and I'm just going to uncomment this. And you'll see it's a simple form. It's just action is site.php. That's this file. We're using the post method. And then down here, we have an input button. What I want to do is I want to write a website where the user can enter in a name, and then we will basically print out what grade that user got on the test. So I can come over here, and I'm just going to make another input, and I'm just going to say type is equal to text. This is just going to be a text box, and I'm going to give this a name. So why don't we call this student? And essentially inside of this text box, we're going to be typing in the student's name whose grade we want to figure out. And so what I can do is when the user submits, when they click this submit button, I could actually come down here and access that information. So what I could do is I could say echo, and I'm going to echo out grades, and then I want to get the value that they passed in. So I'm going to make an open and close square bracket, and inside of here, I'm going to put $_post, open and close square bracket, and in here we're just going to put student. So essentially what I'm doing here is I'm grabbing the value that the user entered inside of that text box, and I'm accessing that element inside of the associative array. So let's go over here and refresh our page, and you'll see we have our text box. So if I typed in like Jim, for example, when I click submit, this should tell me what grade Jim got on the test. So you'll see we get back A+. I could do the same for Pam, and looks like Pam also got an A+, and then we could do it for Oscar, and Oscar got that C+. So this is basically a way that we could wire up like getting user input with an associative array. And this is actually really useful. So you can see how storing the information like this in an associative array where we have key value pairs makes it really, really easy for us to access that information in the future.